Hey folks, this week I'm going to be mangling an itty bitty piece of wood so we can show you guys, using one detail knife, the 8 different types of wood carving cuts. Let's get into it. Well, I'm thinking about it. So, did you guys know that you can support me for not spending a cent by hitting the like button, subscribing, and sharing my videos? It doesn't cost you a cent. It helps the algorithm see me a whole lot more, and it's totally free for you. It just takes 3 clicks. Just wanted to throw that out there. Thanks. Bye. All right, so we're gonna start with just a basic piece of basswood as my. All right, I don't have any padding for my thumb because it doesn't want to stay adhered. So this is a bit awkward because I'm watching this through my phone. But the first up is what we call a push cut. It's where you just push the knife through the wood. There's, in my personal opinion, there's 2 different types: a roughing cut, which is what I just did, where it leaves a real rough edge, or a smoothing cut, which is where when you're done, you get a nice smooth edge. Might be hard to tell with the wood grain, but that is perfectly smooth, whereas this followed the grain. It's really rough. You can tell it's smooth if I can hit the angle just right, because that'll be really shiny. And that one is not. So after the push cut, we have the pull cut or draw cut, which is where you pull towards yourself. This one I don't use all that often, but in order to make it work, we're going to go to this end. You'll note my thumb is well below where I'm cutting. Ordinarily, I would say never cut towards yourself as just a basic safety thing, but there are times where you might need to do something like this. Just make sure your thumb is well clear, and if you can't, invest in a pair of these, which is a cut-proof glove, or cut-resistant glove rather. For the life of me, I cannot find the other one. So if I wasn't just doing this demonstration where that's all the more I'm doing with this particular type of cut, I will wear one of these, because I've cut myself too many times cutting towards myself, breaking the basic rules of the knife that I was taught in Boy Scouts. But there are times where I do have a doodlet here. Let me reach. Where sometimes I might be, when I'm working on their head, where you might see I'm not actually going to cut, so I'm going to use the dull end of the blade, where I'll be bringing it up like this, but my thumb is still resting on the side of the hat here while I'm coming up near it, just because I do not like cutting towards myself. And I will be referring back to this little guy a lot, because a lot of these I use in it as well. I also just remembered I had them here. And like where this is a nice smooth finish, I leave the same thing on there. There's just a lot more facets, so it doesn't stay as shiny because there's a bunch of different angles, but if I had better lighting down here, it'd show up a lot better. But after that, we have the stop cut, which is where you just take your knife and just push straight into the wood, just like that. And what this is good for, like with my doodlet videos, I push in and then I'll take it up. Now, if your knife is dull, you're going to blow right past it. But if you guys saw the sharpening video, that I just released should be coming out before this. I actually did this particular blade after it because I was down here for about 3 hours just sharpening knife blades and cutting my leg all to pieces. But stop cuts are really good for something like that, because then if you wanted, like say you wanted to leave a little bit piece off, like a sorry, I wanted a little bit more of an angle for this example. So if you wanted something like a bird's beak, you can do that. And then so then I am getting ready to start some other projects too, and one of them is birds. I've also seen a penguin that I really like just for a rough pattern from one of the wood carvers I follow, so I'm going to be getting that too. But then you can leave like a little beak like that just using 2 stop cuts and a couple push cuts. I use the push cut more than anything because, I mean, you always see me using my thumb on the blade or the back of the knife. It's my preferred method of cutting. But then you also have a cut called the V cut, where you can either use a V groove to make a V cut, or you can use a knife. In order to do that, we use this edge. You come through and you'll just cut down in. And then you just come down the other direction. It is a bit of a pain sometimes, but a lot of times you'll see me use a palm gouge for this just because it's quicker and easier, but you can leave a V groove in a piece. So like if you want to add a little dimensionality to it and you didn't have, because I actually have 2 full tool rolls just of knives, palm gouges, stuff like that to do this kind of thing. If I'm within smaller, or if I've got a smaller kit with me, I usually leave the gouge kit or the gouge roll at home, and I'll just bring my knife roll with me because I can do everything with those that the gouges do with the knives. It's just gouges make it easier. I'm forgetting one of these, and I've got a list over here. I'm just going down, and one of them that's on this list is actually not correct. Oh, right, slicing cut. So slicing cut is where you'll actually rotate the knife. You can really, really get deep quickly with them. That's actually how I try to do the hats on the dudelets, is with slicing cuts. Because what I'm doing is pushing down in and then actually physically rolling the knife up. So it's almost like another type, which is called prior chip carving. The main difference is you're actually going in and rotating the blade with it. Honestly, with all the descriptions I've read, I think it's the same as a prior chip cut type, but there's that. And with that, we will go into chip carving, which is, basically the same movement, except the true chip carving, you go down in deeper and then pry it up. And actually, that was a perfect example of one that I realized it too late, because you can see where the wood actually broke and how it's coming off in layers just like this. That's a chip cut. I don't use them often, but here is my chip knife. These are specifically designed to go in. And I mean, you can see how that thing just shot out. But it's a shorter but thicker, beefier blade that's not as flimsy. Let's see if we can get the right angle. You can see how it is a lot thicker at the backside than it is with the front. That gives you a lot more ability to pry and take a bunch of material off quickly and easily. And then after that, we've got the paring cut, which is a short, controlled move with the knife held close to the body, often used for fine detail and safe carving. So I'm too far away from the camera, but it's a lot like the push cut, except it would be for really itty bitty cuts like this where you barely take anything off. Because the goal is, sorry, this one just went out of focus. I'm relying on watching this as well, so, but you're barely taking anything off. Now I use the same trick for, that's more of a push cut. But like this real rough edge, if I was going to leave this on the project, I would use these paring cuts to get all the rough spots out of the wood, because that makes life a whole lot easier. Because the thing I found with carving, if you want to actually do a lot or get a good amount of work done quickly, small, fast slices. The whole point of this is to slow down, take your time. But there are times where you might want to take a piece and actually get a bunch off quickly, like the hats on dudelets. So, you can try to take a big honking cutout, but the problem is like that, I can't push this in any farther without my finger right here. And if this slips, these are cut resistant. They're not cut proof. It could very well go in and cut this glove with the amount of force that I got to put on that thing. Then you can see where I had to stop because I couldn't keep the same angle. So that gives you issues there, because then you got to try to figure out how to get it out. And if that was your last cut or you went too deep already, you got to go deeper to get rid of it. So that's why I say short, quick, clean, light passes will make your life so much better when it comes to this craft. And there's other ways you can cut gouges and stuff like that. But I know that was 7. Oh, the one on the list, which I got off the internet. The other one I'm not going into is a chisel cut. I don't have any chisels out here. But that's basically where you take your chisel, set it down, and you either lean into it to push it through or take a mallet and pound it through the wood. I'm not a big fan of that. There are times where it might be necessary. I've personally haven't ran into it yet. But yeah, that said, some people do that kind of thing. So, you gotta, if that's what you want to do for projects you want to work on, go for it. Like I say, I just personally haven't figured out anything that I want to make that required it, so I haven't done it. And that's why I don't like cut-proof gloves, because that totally just fell out of my hand right there. But fun fact, when you're just playing, and you drop your piece of wood, you can just stab it to pick it up. Oh no, he's got stabbed it. But, yep. So, with that said, if it's something you really want to get into, I have videos on how to make these little guys. I highly recommend the Flex Cut. I forget what model number the knife is off the top of my head. I've got one right here though. That's the blade. It's like 3/4 of an inch long. I can cut an entire one of these guys out with just this. And for a comparison, in this video, the detail knife I was using, I mean, that's the blade height difference right there. I like these especially for beginners because you don't have as much blade sticking out. You're less likely to cut yourself. You can cut yourself, and when it comes to wood carving, it's going to be bad and it's going to hurt. Believe me. But yeah, so with that said, just putting that away before I forget, I will say cat in the hat, that be dat. I will see you all later.